Welcome back to the Five Spot. I'm your host, Donovan McNabb, joined with Armando Segura. And yes, we had an explosive game last night, which probably put half of America to sleep until they seen Taylor Swift hugging Brittany Mahomes in the skybox. I was still looking for Travis Kelce's mom, wondering, is that Travis's box or is that Patrick Mahomes' box? But all in all, people were still excited about Taylor Swift being so excited about probably what she probably don't understand what's going on the football field, that being the Kansas City Chiefs and Travis Kelce having another explosive day. When I look at this game, just kind of breaking it down, it's more about, to me, the Kansas City Chiefs than the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are who they are. They've been this way the last couple of weeks. Offensively, they look elementary. It seems that Sean Payton is bringing back the old playbook of when Drew Brees couldn't throw it past 18 to 25 yards and everything was 15 and under. It seems that also defensively, Vance Joseph is just trying to find a way to build a kind of bend but don't break defense. I thought they did an excellent job of just applying a little bit of pressure to Patrick Mahomes and at least knocking balls down, getting interceptions that some were called back. But yet and still, I thought defensively this has probably been their best game so far. But offensively, it's been quite embarrassing in Denver. But moving to the Kansas City's Chiefs side, I thought Patrick Mahomes kind of calmed down as the game went on. He was rushing things, trying to create that explosive play. And when you have a security blanket like Travis Kelce, where you can find him anywhere across the field, it makes your passing game go a lot smoother. And that's where it is right now in the NFL. All these quarterbacks have their security blanket, their number one receiver they can rely on. Sometimes that receiver breaks off his route due to coverage. And at the end of the day, it looks great for all offenses. So, Armando, to me, this game to me was more about Kansas City and probably their lack of receivers, productive receivers, but more about the connection that Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have that's going to carry them all throughout the season.
Well, I like the way you just kind of in your introduction kind of referred to Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift as like a football dummy.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. You said that. You said that. I didn't say that.
No. I think I heard you say that she didn't know what was going on. The Colts is going to come after you, my friend. That's what's going to happen now.
I mean, it looked like she was just like, yeah. Like it was just a catch. Like it was just a catch.
No, dude, they announced world peace and the two of them kind of hugged and it was like a moment. It was wonderful. Woo. Oh my gosh. Hey, did the Denver Broncos know that Travis Kelce is good? Are they aware?
Oh my
because
gosh.
And this is not the only game that I see this. There are games where, like earlier this season, the Los Angeles Chargers and their outstanding head coach, Brandon Staley.
Your favorite.
Yeah, my boy. Tyreek Hill is running down the field and it's either uncovered or man-to-man. In this game, Travis Kelce's running down the field and there's no one within 4 or 5 yards. And I'm thinking, do they know that guy's good? Are they aware?
Yeah. Well, Armando, is this, and I've seen this over the years of when I played, and I kind of see it a little bit now, but it's more about the trust that the quarterback and his tight end has. Now, when we talk about tight ends, we're talking about Hockenson in Minnesota. We're talking about Darren Waller back when he was with the Raiders, the relationship he had with Derek Carr. It's Travis Kelce, it's George Kittle's. All of these top echelon tight ends that when you see them come out of games with 8, 9, 10 targets, 7, 8 catches. If you watch Travis Kelce, because it's really funny, I'm gonna kind of throw my age out there. But remember Mark Chmura with the Green Bay Packers, the relationship that he had with Brett Favre, where it looked like Mark Chmura was supposed to run a deep crossing route, and he stops in the middle of the field because he sees that weak side safety over there. That's what Travis Kelce does. And in this offense, Andy Reid allows his tight ends and his slot receivers to do that. And so now we're seeing Travis Kelce look wide open because a couple times they put Patrick, Surtain on him, which I think that was the smart thing to do. But even Surtain got caught in the wash a little bit, which made it a little bit tougher for the Denver Broncos because that leaves a void when your number one DB is covering the tight end instead of covering a receiver.
Yeah, let me throw my age out there. You remember John Mackey of just kidding.
John, hey, where school did John Mackey go to?
Was it Syracuse?
I mean, there you go.
Mr. Orange wearing t-shirt guy. Is that it?
Yeah, that's our guy, John Mackey.
Okay, Mr. Board Member. Is that?
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Trustee. I'm sorry, you're the trusted one of Syracuse University. I forgot. Sorry. So, is Patrick Mahomes going to be okay? There was a moment in this game, Donovan, where it was not a good moment. He's there. They didn't convert. He's on the sideline and he's like this and he's down. And it looked to me like if I could read the caption in his head, it was like, I miss Tyreek Hill. And we all know that the Chiefs don't have that dynamic receiver. They're trying to grow up some young receivers.
Right.
Is Patrick Mahomes going to be all right? Is he going to make it? Because they are basically you need to go 10 plays, 12 plays to score a touchdown. They have not many dynamic plays on offense.
Well, it's not the plays, it's the players. And I like Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore can be a quality receiver in this offense. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that he's a 100-catch guy? No. Does that mean he's more of a 90-80 catch? No. I think he's more of a 60, 65, receptions per season. But then they need Tony to step up, and they just don't have that. And so I think now we're starting to understand a little bit of the dynamic of what Patrick Mahomes is all about. He's about spreading the ball around, getting everyone involved, but at the end of the day, he knows where his security blanket is. And that's what's made him so successful, of his talent to be able to uplift everyone else's game. And so offensively, again, Andy Reid does a great job. And I say Andy because Andy's kind of taken over a little bit. And I know Nagy is calling plays. But Andy has taken over to bring the basics back, simplifying a little bit of the offense so that they can continue to methodically move it. But at the end of the day, he allows 15 to just go out and play ball.
I saw that you started commenting on receivers, and as an ex-player, I was thinking, oh my God, he's going there. He's going to start commenting on current players, and it might get ugly.
No. You know what? I watched that, and I seen it coming. And Mike Garafolo, he led into it, and it was almost like an alley-oop. It was a no-look alley-oop where he kind of threw it to Steve and kind of just you seen him just kind of hold his mic, and it was like, here comes the bombshell. And Steve just went off on a tangent, so to speak. And I felt bad for Jerry Jeudy, especially when it's almost like kicking a horse while he's down. Like, you know what I mean? It's not really needed. He's on a bad team. He battled injury, came back. He's still probably their number 1 or 2 receiver, which is not saying much right now because offensively they just don't have the explosion. And then when Steve said that and then dropped the mic and just stood there, I just knew America was going to blow up. I knew they were going to take that and run with it.
Yeah, we're talking about pregame even. They're on the sideline doing their sideline report, and Steve Smith apparently has said stuff about Jerry Jeudy on his podcast, not very flattering stuff, by the way. And so he saw Jerry Jeudy on the field, went over to him, and he said on air that he was going to apologize for not saying very flattering stuff. And that Jerry Jeudy was having none of it. And basically, it didn't go well. And then Steve Smith brought it to the wider audience on the sideline report, which was a
Right.
little surprising to me,
Which,
to be
that,
very
again,
frank with you.
that's not how you carry yourself on the air. Like, that's not what you do on the air. If it's something that happened on the field, you leave it on the field. And then you have your podcast, you can talk about it on your podcast, but don't bring it to television. And I thought that was a little bit much because he referred to Jerry Jeudy as a jag, meaning just another, just another
That's
guy.
the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, just another guy. And so um, when you start to label guys and you start doing that, yeah, guys are going to get a little sensitive with it because, no one wants to be labeled as just another guy when you're trying to make this your profession and, be effective and productive in what you're doing. So I get that with Jerry Jeudy, but that was just kind of tough. When I heard that, I sat with my mouth wide open. Like, I just couldn't believe he did that on national TV. And so,
Can you can you imagine in your playing days if you're like warming up before a game for the Philadelphia Eagles and like Ron Jaworski comes over to you before the game and starts ripping you and reminding you of how little he may have, whatever he may have said about you? I mean, that is like crazy that to me, as a member of the media, you're not the story. You
right.
shouldn't ever be the story. If you're part of the story, you're part of a bad day for yourself. That's a bad day. And Steve Smith has no problem being the story. I mean, could you imagine how you would have reacted, or anybody would react, if you're preparing for a game? That's where your mind is at. And this happens like 10 minutes before kickoff?
Well, again, just make sure you tune into the 5 Spot because we give you the latest news and everything that's going on in the world. But I look at it in the sense of, this was something on his podcast that was said. So it got back to Jerry Jeudy that he was referring to him as a jag and all the other negative stuff that he was saying about him. So Jerry Judy's focusing on what he's doing, and then all of a sudden, you see Steve walking up to you, and I would do the same thing. Like, I've had former players on radio or TV or whatever say whatever, and they may have been calling the game, or they may have been on the sideline doing their radio show from the game or whatever, and I just don't go in their direction, because when you say things and we know who you are, that's kind of how we look at it as players. It's like, oh, I see where you are. I see what direction you're coming from, but I'm just gonna move away. Like, don't say anything to me. And if you're saying something to me, I'll be the one to be like, oh, how you doing? Keep it moving. But Jerry Jeudy decided he was going to let him know about himself. And I don't have a problem with that, to be honest with you, as a former player. And Steve knows that too. Steve knows if someone's talking negative about him on TV or radio and he gets back to him, Steve knows that same thing as a player. Like, that's kind of not the way you kind of go about it. And this will be something that will be talked about, I'm sure, all throughout the week. But let's move on to another kind of hostile game, because this is kind of a put it on the table and see what happens, and that being the Buffalo Bills and the New York Giants that's coming up, where we see what's happening in New York, and it hasn't been pleasant. We have Daniel Jones coming back off of an injury. I think he's still kind of day-to-day or doubtful for the game. We'll see. Buffalo's coming off of a loss, which, I would say offensively, the Buffalo Bills have shown me everything I expected, and that being, being able to push the ball downfield. We're seeing Josh Allen be effective in the passing game now, 73 completion percentage, over 1,400 yards, puts him up there with some of the other top quarterbacks at this particular point with 11 touchdowns. Only thing that kind of bothers me a little bit right now for him is the 5 interceptions. But when I look at this particular game, I think it's much more about Buffalo than the Giants, because Saquon Barkley's not there. Your leading rusher is Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is struggling in the passing game. The offensive line is struggling blocking. Defensively, I think they deserve a little bit more credit because I think they're going down with the ship because of what's going on offensively from the Giants. But I look more at Buffalo, and I think their defense is even losing White at the cornerback position with an Achilles. I think their defense is still playing better, and getting Von Miller back is going to help them. So I think Buffalo, this is their chance now to show Ryan Dable that they've kind of now carried the torch and they're still moving forward to be one of the top teams in the AFC.
So Donovan, I call this the brain drain game. And the reason it really is, and the reason I call it that is because let me take you back, way back to January of 2022 in the playoffs. We saw Josh Allen in those playoffs, and in 2 games, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions,
Right.
75% completion percentage. He basically lifted that entire team on his shoulders. And if it hadn't been for those final 13 seconds at Kansas City, they would have been on to the AFC Championship game. And obviously they weren't. Days later, Brian Daboll gets hired as the head coach of the New York Giants. Joe Shane, a member of the front office in Buffalo, gets hired as the general manager of the New York Giants. And right there, with Daboll getting hired and taking Mike Kafka, the quarterback coach, it's like they pulled the rug out from under Josh Allen. And I'm not making excuses for Josh Allen, but what I'm saying is a bunch of people that were invested in making the Buffalo Bills what everybody thought was a big Super Bowl favorite at the time and an ascending team.
Right.
They left to go to the Giants.
Right.
And Josh Allen hasn't been the same since. You mentioned it. He's got 5 interceptions. Dude, he leads or is tied for the NFL lead in interceptions the last 2 seasons without Brian Daboll, without Kafka, without those guys after the brain drain of the organization. And I'm saying to you, the quarterback that we expected after that game and in those playoffs, he hasn't shown up. He hasn't been around because he's kind of plateaued.
Well, and that's the thing is when you're one of the top quarterbacks, meaning that I would use the top 6, top 7 quarterbacks in the league. People like to go and refer to it as the elite or the top 3 when there are probably, I would say, as far as elite is concerned, there are probably about 5 to 6 elite quarterbacks when they use that title. And I look at Josh Allen because his ability to extend plays, his ability to ad-lib a little bit, and that meaning being off course from the actual play call. I love his patience. I love the fact that he'll run somebody over. That's great. But I think the thing that kind of gets overlooked a little bit is his ability to push the ball downfield and do it accurately. And so a thing that changed in his career is early part when they brought Stephon Diggs in. Stephon Diggs came from Minnesota, an experienced receiver. He was number 1 receiver over there with Adam Thielen. And when he came over to Buffalo, that's what I love, the fact that the GM, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, everyone bought into bringing a number 1 weapon over there and what it would do. Now, I was a part of that. When you bring a number 1 receiver, an experienced number 1 receiver into your offense and into your meeting room, it uplifts the confidence of everyone else around him. And when Stephon Diggs came in, that first year when Stephon Diggs came in, all of a sudden Josh Allen became one of the top 10, top 12 quarterbacks to a top 5, top 4 quarterback, just like that, because he had help. And that's the recipe for a lot of these young guys that these GMs continuously miss on because they keep going to get these number 2 and number 3 receivers and trying to make them number 1. Go spend the money and get a number 1 receiver. And so I'm looking at his numbers now. And this is year 3 or 4 with together with those guys?
This is year 3.
Year 3. And so Stephon Diggs was targeted over 50 times with 39 catches right now for 520 yards. He's averaging 104 yards receiving. But then with that, the question that I ask the Buffalo Bills is, what else are you missing? Because when I look at this offense, Josh Allen should not be your number one running back, pretty much. Your number one running back is James Cook with only 292 yards and 1 touchdown right now. They're missing that running back, that feature running back, like they had back in the day with LaShawn McCoy. If they had a running game that would neutralize the clock in the game, they beat Cincinnati last year. They end up seeing, I think, Kansas City again in the AFC Championship. And so I think for Buffalo at this particular point, it's not about Ryan Daboll. Now, he's gone. I think it's more about the scheme, the Buffalo scheme of being able to eat up clock instead of trying to score on one particular play.
Meanwhile, the Giants overestimated who they are this year.
Oh,
I think that's clear, right? The rebuild
yeah.
is not as far along as what they thought. They don't have any depth. They have arguably one of the best left tackles in the NFL, except that he hasn't played. So there's that.
And he made his comments. He made his comments that's not going well in New York.
Well, that was Evan Neal, I think. But both those guys, one of them hasn't played, and one of them, Thomas hasn't played, and Evan Neal is talking out of his mouth. And
oh my gosh.
It's going like this and not saying smart things.
Right.
But what I would say to you is they paid the quarterback and the quarterback's not able to carry the team.
Well, it's funny you bring up Daniel Jones and you know, like, I'm not going to beat a dead horse with the comments, but I look at Daniel Jones' numbers, and you know how the world now is all about numbers. It's, you know, well, he's only passed for, Daniel Jones has 2 touchdown passes. 2 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. Now, we can look at it in any way, 72 rating, QB rating, which is low. He doesn't have the help up front. He doesn't have the help at the running back position. And yes, we can highlight the receivers and all, like I just mentioned about Josh Allen. I think he needs that type of help to boost this offense. But it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look pleasant right now for Daniel Jones. And being that he makes so much money and everyone goes to everyone else's bank account to refer to, oh, well, he makes $40 million. He's got to carry the organization. It's hard to carry an organization by yourself. You need help. Yes, he's not playing well. I will admit that. He's not playing well. And is he worth the money right now the way he's playing? No. But I will say this, that he can't do it by himself. And when I watched the little interaction between he and Ryan Daboll on the sideline, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's a recipe for a disaster in New York that's not going to end well.
I would say to you, the best thing that could happen for the New York Giants is to continue to be bad the rest of the year. So they can, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying do it on purpose, but if it happens, you get higher draft picks. And that's what you need because you're not talented enough in the NFC East.
Well, let's move to the NFC North, and we have more crying games where this as you mentioned, you will not miss a meal for any game that's played on Sunday. Let's go to Minnesota with the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. I think this game is much more about Chicago and what we've seen over the last 2 games. Where is this going for him? Is this going to continue to improve? DJ Moore stepping up and being such an integral part of this offense, which I hope that offensively from the scheme standpoint, that they're dialing up at least 15 to 18 plays specifically just for DJ Moore to get the ball. And that will help Justin Fields as he continues to go along and play the way he's played in the last 2 games. But I look at the Minnesota Vikings and this being close to the trade deadline. Kirk Cousins, it's funny watching Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins doesn't wow you with anything. Kirk Cousins is just a steady Eddie who is just an old vet that understands the game. He's a top 15, top 18 quarterback, I think, in the league. And that's only because there's no splash to him. Now, he can carry your team in the regular season and and put up decent numbers, and you come out and probably win, 75, 65% of your games. When I look at Kirk Cousins, shockingly, rating of 102, almost 1,500 yards passing, 67% completion percentage, 13 touchdowns. Now, when you hear that and you don't know it's Kirk Cousins, you think automatically, oh, that's Joe Burrow. Oh, that's Patrick Mahomes. Oh, that's Josh Allen. No, Kirk Cousins has been doing fairly well. The team's just not that good. And then when you look at that number one receiver, Justin Jefferson is putting up great numbers. Then you look at their tight end and Hawkinson, he's putting up great numbers. And then they go draft a receiver from USC in Addison, and he's putting up great numbers. So I just think overall, the Minnesota Vikings, you talk about when trade deadline hits, there are a lot of names that I think a lot of teams are trying to bid for to pull from that particular team.
Yeah, this to me is there's a movie called The Water Boy, and this is the scene out of The Water Boy. It's like, oh no, yeah. Oh no, we suck again. The Minnesota Vikings, because they don't have Justin Jefferson this week. Oh no, we suck again. They don't have their best player. You mentioned the trade rumors. I would hate to be Kirk Cousins, except for his bank account. I would love to be Kirk Cousins' bank account, not the person. It's like everybody's talking about that he's got 1 foot out the door, and really, I don't see how it can happen.
I don't see how it can happen either.
Right? Yeah. Right? What team is going to trade for Kirk Cousins? And if you look at it, I'm sure that there are NFL teams that look at it exactly the way you portrayed it. Kirk Cousins steady, Kirk Cousins prorated $35 million the rest of the year. No, I don't think so. And so, because he's not going to save your season in any way. He hasn't saved the Minnesota Vikings season. I just think, look, if they lose this game, we're done, and they are sellers at the deadline. Maybe Danielle Hunter gets moved at the deadline. That defense is terrible anyway. Brian Flores was brought in to wake up the defense, and it's still, the alarm clock hasn't sounded. I just see that as good night, Charlie, type of thing. And oh, by the way, I also see it as Justin Fields the last couple of games has been doing this, and he better keep doing this because the Vikings are doing this. It's bad.
It's bad because no one ever talks about the Vikings because they don't give you much. And you're really right now in the NFC North. I mean, the only two teams that you could possibly talk about are the Vikings and the Packers, and they're both not playing very well. And so now it's like, oh, well, the Bears, and then they're not playing well. So I just think overall, it's nothing you can do at this particular point. And if I'm the Vikings, no, I'm not trading him at the trade deadline. And they talked about Justin Jefferson, talked about he wanted to possibly be traded. Yeah, okay. You think I'm giving up Justin Jefferson? Like, that's not happening. And so, yeah, maybe Harrison Smith or something like, yeah, you might be able to go in that direction. But I think for the Vikings, this is an opportunity for them to kind of, I guess, be a feel-good game. If they can win this game versus the Bears, and for the Bears, this is an opportunity for them to kind of add to the confidence that they've built over the last 2 weeks. But I don't think this is one that people are just going to lock in and all of a sudden, order pizza and wings and just zero in on this particular game. See, you got excited with the wings and with the wings
and pizza.
There you go.
Wings and pizza. and if it's free, it's me.
Yeah, there you go. I'm with you on that, especially on Sundays, game day. But even with that, let's go to, I think, a game that has so much weight carried on it for I think a unit, and that being the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Chargers. There's a lot of weight carried on units. And I say that because for the offense of the Dallas Cowboys, this weight carries so much, so much power on the shoulders of Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy, CeeDee Lamb, and Pollard. And then for the Los Angeles Chargers, it carries so much weight on their defense. Now, we've talked about their defense and what happened against Miami, and even weeks after giving up so many yards and points. And Brandon Staley being a defensive-minded head coach, it just hasn't fared well. And so, yes, I brought your favorite coach in Brandon Staley. But this is a game in which I think this gives both teams that opportunity to go this way. And if they end up losing, it's going to end up going this way.
Yeah, by the way, Detroit Lions fans, send your angry letters and emails to Donovan McNabb, care of the 5 spot at OutKick, because I'm not dealing with that stuff. You just mentioned the only 2 teams we talk about in the North are worth talking about is Green Bay and Minnesota. The Lions are going, huh? What?
Well, I mean, we've seen Detroit over the last part of last season and then now. So Detroit, when we talk Detroit with San Francisco and with Philadelphia. But we don't refer to them as the NFC North because the NFC North has always been Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay. And so Detroit, what we're seeing from Detroit is kind of almost expected. It's expected of what we've seen. And I like what Jared, and I've always given Jared Goff that love because he deserves it. And he's the underappreciated guy. But now when we talk about guys who are trying to find some love, that being that game against Dallas and the Los Angeles Chargers.
Nice recovery. I like it.
Yeah, you like that.
That's called a comeback.
There you go.
So Mike McCarthy, he is the head coach for now of the Dallas Cowboys, and he is the guy who fired Kellen Moore, who is now the offensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Chargers. Right. And you look at the Los Angeles Chargers offense, and you look at the Dallas Cowboys offense, and I like the Los Angeles Chargers offense more. True. And it's not because they have a better quarterback, because they do. Justin Herbert is, in fact, elite. If you were drafting quarterbacks in the NFL today, right now, he would be maybe the second pick, maybe the first pick that a lot of people would take.
Everybody in Cincinnati, yes, make sure you email Armando at 5 spot. For all you Joe Burrow fans, for Jacksonville, all those Trevor Lawrence fans, for Buffalo, you Josh Allen fans, because Kansas City. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes fan. Armando just said that Justin Herbert is better and will start a franchise over all of you. Yes, Armando Segura
at the 5 spot. Also, dummy. No, I mean the guy is 6'6", 240 pounds. I saw him at the Super Bowl. Was it a year or 2 years ago? He looks like a freaking power forward walking around. It's like, Tyreek Hill mentioned Chase Claypool looks like a vending machine walking around. This guy looks like a vending machine on top of a refrigerator walking around. So there's that. And that guy does carry that team to whatever mediocre sense that they do, because their coach is bad, but he is the team for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I'll take him, put him on my squad. Whatever. The point is, Kellen Moore is a better play caller than Mike McCarthy, who fired him. And if Mike McCarthy wants to prove me wrong, be better on Sunday. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what it's going to come down to is how many times you're going to target CeeDee Lamb. How many times are you going to get Tony Pollard out in the flat or one-on-one versus linebackers, and be able to get the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands quickly. And I think that was the recipe for the last 3 years for the Dallas Cowboys when they had, obviously, Kellen Moore calling plays. Get the ball out of his hands, allow him to get in rhythm, then take your shots. And it just hasn't been that way. it looks like it's been take shots, and then all of a sudden now we're down, and it's like, oh, we got to find a way to get our quarterback in rhythm. It's too late. It's too late. You're not running the football effectively, and that's why you're struggling, because that was the main mindset that McCarthy was supposed to have: run first and then pass. But it hasn't been effective. And for the Los Angeles Chargers, I think this is their time to start to elevate. But your quarterback's coming; he's injured. I think he has a broken finger on his non-throwing hand, so that's not going to fare well. He's going to be in shotgun every game. So now taking hits on that wrist and that forearm affects that finger. So we'll see how long he lasts as this continues on. But for me, I mean, there's a lot that we can kind of hash into. We got to close the show at this particular point. Thank you for joining the 5 Spot. We've gave you everything that you need, from the Taylor Swift situation that Armando loves to talk about, the Denver Broncos and where this will end up, to the Buffalo Bills and Ryan Daboll. And joining us here at the 5 Spot, an undefeated coach that grew up loving the game of football, and now he has a chance to do something that in Philadelphia just hasn't happened, and that being back in the Super Bowl and hopefully possibly win it. Joining us today on the 5 Spot is Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. The 5-0 coach in Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni, born and raised in Jamestown, New York. I know a little bit about the New York flavor. And Nick, you got to start us out. 3 kids. You've had a long journey in the coaching realm. What has led you to this point where you understand a little bit about changing the culture and letting your players be themselves?
Dude, yeah, it's a players' league, right? And we want them to be. I think one thing that's really important that we want to have as our culture is to be able to have great relationships, to be able to have a ton of fun, right, but while also being highly demanding. And so part of that of letting their players talent shine and letting their personality shine that's part of the fun of being in football, right? Mm-hmm. Is we want them to show their personality, and that's what I tell them all the time. Hey, show your personality, show who you are, be who you are, all while under the rules of what, so we don't get a penalty or anything like that, right? But that's important. Like, what's really important to us is that this is an environment that people want to come into every single day. Like, you go into work 2 ways. Oh man, I got to go to work today, or oh man, I get to go to work today, right? And we'd obviously want the second portion of that. And the way that happens is through the connection, through the relationships, but don't mistake that we also have to be highly demanding of each other as well. And so I think you can have it both ways. And I think that's the way our culture is here in Philadelphia.
It's funny. Let me take you back. Now, we like to rewind the time every now. Let's go back to your press conference. When you stepped there in front of the media in Philly, your commentary and your quotes might be the best, besides Dan Campbell, but might be the best to get yourself started. Do you look back on that and go, what was I thinking?
You prep, like, the whole time I've been prepping to get this job as a head coach. I've been prepping as an offensive mind, or as a play caller, or as a quarterback coach, or as a wide receiver coach. Never really as the media, right? I wasn't quite ready for it, but you know what I thought? It's just like everything. You want to get better. In anything that you do, and so it was a really good thing for me to. I look at not always in life can you look back at stumbles and say that was good for me, right?
Right.
That's not. You don't always see the light of it, but I can in that aspects and be like, hey, that stumble was good for me. It helped me get closer to the players. It helped me be able to say to the players, hey, I really messed this up, but I'm going to get better. and that's what I want them to do is like, hey, we can really mess something up, and it's healthy. And this is healthy in a growth culture. It's healthy to say, man, I really messed this up, whether it's 3rd and 2, 1st and 10, your opening press conference, right? Any of those things. I really messed this up. How do I get better at it? Because that's a growth mindset, man. Okay, well, cool. I'm going to get better at it this way, or that way. And that's all that's important, is that you're growing and from every situation that you have. And so I think I look back at that and say, hey, that was a good thing for me to be able to mess up like that, because I was able to kind of paint the picture of what I wanted the culture to look like as far as, hey, daily improvement and self-evaluation of yourself.
So, Nick, as Donovan mentioned, you're from Western New York. As a teenager, right? Interested in football, playing football, a future college player, a future coach. Growing up in the area, did you ever take note of a certain Syracuse quarterback? And what was your honest opinion of that McNabb dude that you might have seen playing at the time?
Dude, heck yeah. You grew up in New York. You're going to know all about Syracuse football and all about Syracuse basketball. So I get to see both ends of that, right? Not only was he a football player, also a basketball player. So always a big fan of Syracuse teams. I have to admit, I was more of a fan of Syracuse basketball, the Lawrence Motons, the John Wallace, and I'm going in those some of those same areas that you were on. I know that.
Yeah.
But heck yeah, anytime you're a receiver, quarterback, I was kind of both. You're looking up to the people that are playing in the college football and in professional football, and shoot, right there in Western New York, we had Syracuse to look at, and the great Donovan McNabb, who was making a ton of plays for the orange and blue.
My man. Let's go to the football aspect of it. When I look at the Eagles offense this year and losing two coordinators, everyone thinks it's going to be a step back. But just the mentality of this season, I've been so impressed of the way things have now changed to where the old school aspect is. Establishing the run, getting north and south, setting up the play action game. When I look at where DeAndre Swift is right now, leading the league in rushing, and then now to looking where Jalen and his growth from playing within the pocket, I'm so impressed that it takes me back to the offseason. How big was this offseason with all the acquisitions that you made and new guys coming in for the core veterans to uplift these new guys and teach them the Philadelphia Eagle way?
Yeah, huge offseason. And like you said, like the transition on offense was very similar, was very comfortable, I guess to say,
Right.
because Brian's been at every meeting, right?
Mhm.
Brian's been a part of every game plan meeting that Shane and I were ever involved in. Every time we ever talked about how we would call a certain situation, anytime we talked about how we would manage a certain part of the game, the fundamentals of how this route should look, that route should look, Brian's been there from the beginning stages of this. So that to me was simple. That to me was easy. Of everybody getting on the same page there. A little bit different with a guy like Sean, who hasn't been in the building for the past 2 years, right? And
Right.
so you're doing everything you possibly can in that off season to catch them up to, hey, again, here's the vision of what we want this to look like here, Sean, or here, when you're talking about situational football or whatever it is. But I also hired Sean to do a job, right, and bring his expertise to it as well. But as a head coach, you're going to have some visions of what you want it to look like. So there was a lot of getting on the same page there. And then you talk about all the new players that come in, right? To have Fletcher Cox, to have Jason Kelce, to have Lane Johnson, to have Brandon Graham. Like, I didn't step in, like, I've been on this job for 3 years now. I didn't step into this job though, like other first-year head coaches, meaning I had 4 guys on the offense and defensive line that were 10-year Eagles plus.
Right.
That's unheard of. That's unusual.
Believe me, I know.
And it's not only 4 great players, it's 4 great leaders. It's 4 guys that wear the C on their chest, not because they've been here for 10 years, it's because they're great freaking leaders. And so you get that and you have that makes my job so much easier, that like they're painting the picture of what Fletch is painting the picture to Jalen Carter of what the expectation is of wearing this uniform, right? And being in this building, Jason Kelce with Cam Jurgens last year, or Brandon Graham with Jordan Davis, or Fletch with Jordan Davis. So it's just a contagious thing. And the offseason was huge for that. And that's how guys get closer. We can do as much as we want as coaches, but we have such good leaders, and that's huge, as to catch everybody up to what the standard is.
Right.
So, you know that a lot has been said and written and chronicled about your quarterback sneak, the so-called tush-push. Uh, in your heart of hearts, in a private moment, do you feel like, how do you feel? You got to feel a certain sort of way when people like Nick Saban and Jack Del Rio are commenting about it. And Andy Reid, even last night, they run a version of it. How does that thing make you feel that that's you? You guys brought that in. You
Well,
guys.
Well, shoot, I know that play has been around a lot longer than I have.
It
I
was
think
illegal then.
the push you can we've stretched it a little bit of what we can do and what we can't do. I don't know. It's kind of cool, right? It's kind of cool. Like it's great in the sense that you have so much confidence in the play that you're going to get a first down or a touchdown. Like last week against the Rams, we knew that was our last play of the half, right? We knew we only had 2 seconds left after the pass interference to AJ in the red zone, and we knew we only had one play. And we pulled it all on the line for that one, and we scored a touchdown. So that's a great feeling to see. What I like is when I watch other teams unsuccessfully try to do it. Like we're historically good at it. Like let's make sure that that's understood. We're historically good at it. And what else makes us historically good at it is that our offense does an unbelievable job of getting to 3rd and 1. Like, why did you have 5 quarterback sneaks in this last game? Well, because we were in 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 more than anybody else. That's a big deal, right? That's a big deal. And so I find joy in when teams are unsuccessful at it because it ain't that easy, right? Regardless, knowing how successful the Eagles are at it, how successful we are at it, there's a reason. And the reason is I got 5 of them. I got 6 of them. Jason Kelce, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson, all right, Cam Jurgens, all right, and Jordan Mailata, and Jalen Hurts squat 600 pounds. And if that wasn't enough, Kenny Gainwell's got his hand right on him and he's pushing him forward. And so's Dallas Goedert. But if it was that easy, everyone will be that successful at it. But they're not because of the players that we have and the fundamentals that, like, I really think about it in the growth mindset. We talked about this last week as a team, that there's a growth mindset to it. If you look at our quarterback sneaks from 2 years ago, they look a little bit different. They look completely different than what's going on now because we've continued to grow in this play. And you know what? There's a lot of reasons why it's good, but it really does start up front and starts with Jalen. And I'll say it again. I find joy when other teams fail. They fail at this play. Because it ain't that easy.
They have failed. I will tell you, and they tried it. But let's go back to the players again and just the importance of leadership, mentorship, example setting, and just preparation. When you bring a guy like Jalen Carter in, who dominated the collegiate level from a defensive standpoint, I don't think I've seen that since like Warren Sapp. And going back and dating myself a little bit, but Warren Sapp, and to be able to draft him, knowing the situation that's been going on and what's transpired at Georgia. But from what I've seen a good Samaritan, a hard worker, and not only that, a productive player with 3.5 sacks. Just tell me a little bit about Jalen Carter that maybe people do not know about Jalen.
Extremely tough, extremely physical, very noticeable. Those are the things that you can notice right away. How physical he is, how strong he is, how tough he is. Right. Those are common denominators of really good defensive linemen and really good football players up front. But then the other things is like he's got a great work ethic of how he goes about his business every day. He's a great teammate. Guys like being around him. So the things that you see on tape, I think it's very obvious. Like, we were seeing those early on. We're like, man, this guy's hard to block. Right. It is tough to block this guy. And you're seeing that, kind of transpire as he plays week in, week out. But again, I can't say enough about the type of work he puts in to get to where he's gotten to right now, and also the type of teammate he is. But we also understand this with Jalen that, right? And one thing that's awesome is Fletch, year 12 for Fletcher Cox. he's been doing it at this level for 12 years, right? Jalen's been 5 games, and he's got a lot of work to do. He's played really well, but when you're thought of as a great player in this league, it's because you do it year after year after year and game after game after game. So we're just looking for him to continue to stack good practices on top of each other, games on top of each other, and then the years will come.
So, Nick, I have eyes, and I see the Phillies cap. And I'm wondering, Phillies success, good for the Philadelphia Eagles, or damn it, they're taking attention away from us?
Good. Hell yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. No, the more and more energy that is being brought to this sports town, the better, right? The Phillies play good, and they continue to play good. We play at the Jets this week, but it's just going to continue to get louder over there because it just builds upon each other. And so I really felt that last year when the Phillies made the run to the World Series. I could really feel that bouncing off each other and then the buzz of the city. Like, it was really cool. And like, I mean, I'm a Phillies fan. So now, like, my kids who have been here for the last 3 years, right? They're Phillies fans and they're into it. Like, I enjoy a good baseball game and a good baseball team. And so it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. So hell yeah, it's good. It's good for the Eagles.
I've been a part of the Phillies run, the Sixers run, and then obviously us making it to the Super Bowl. But you mentioned your 3 kids, and I know, look, for a young kid, it's about the meal. It's about the snacks. All right, you got to give me cheesesteak story. Is it Geno's or is it Pat's?
They say when I say Geno's or Pat's, they say that
don't get yourself in trouble now.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say the cafeteria.
There you go.
That cafeteria. But I do like both of them. I do like both of them. I like both of them. And you know what? To me, though, when I want something really good to eat, I don't have to go very far, which is why I've probably gained about 15 pounds since I got here. I can just go to this cafeteria over here and they'll make me James, our head chef, he's awesome. He'll make anything. Like, anything I want, he makes, and that's not always a good thing. So that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say that. You're right. I'm not getting myself in trouble.
Smart answer.
Diplomatic coach, very diplomatic.
Hey, I already got myself in trouble with the media that first press conference when they were busting my chops. So I ain't doing it again. We got to learn from our mistakes, right? We got to learn from our mistakes.
And that concludes our show here at the 5 Spot. Make sure you tune in because you just never know who may show up. We want to thank Nick Sirianni for joining us to talk a little bit about the Birds, their future, and what's going on with their offense and defense, and more. Join us here at the 5 Spot to find out what's coming on next.